Have you ever wondered why, despite all your efforts, the pain, the suffering never seems to leave? You try to escape it, distract yourself, fill the void with distractions, and yet it always returns. Like a shadow that follows, constant, relentless. It whispers in your ear that something is wrong, that you are not enough, that the world is against you. Have you ever asked yourself, why does this suffering never go away? Suffering, in all its forms, is an inseparable part of human existence. Yet, we are conditioned to avoid it, to run from it, to push it away. Society tells us that happiness is the goal, the destination. But in this constant search for relief, we miss a truth that is both simple and profound. Suffering is not something to escape from. It is something to understand. And in understanding it, we transcend it. Imagine this. You are standing on the edge of a vast, deep ocean. The waves of emotion crash against you, each one pulling you deeper into the cold water of despair, regret, and fear. You struggle against it, kicking, gasping for air, desperate to escape. But no matter how hard you try, the waves keep coming. The harder you fight, the deeper you sink. You feel helpless, overwhelmed. But what if, instead of fighting, you allowed yourself to be still? What if you stopped struggling, stopped running, and simply faced the ocean? Would the waves still have the same power over you? Or would they lose their grip, their ability to drown you, the moment you stopped resisting them? Krishnamurti once said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." In the same way, it is no measure of wisdom to suppress suffering and pretend it doesn't exist. We live in a world that teaches us to seek pleasure and avoid pain. The moment we feel discomfort, we reach for distractions, whether it's food, work, social media, or relationships. These temporary escapes give us relief, but only for a moment. As soon as the distraction fades, the suffering returns, often even stronger than before. Why does this happen? It happens because the root of our suffering lies not in the external world, but in our relationship with it. Our suffering is a reflection of the inner conflict we experience between what is and what we want to be. We desire happiness, peace, and fulfillment, but these desires are often rooted in the belief that we are broken, incomplete, and that something outside of ourselves will heal us. In reality, the more we seek external validation, the deeper we entrench ourselves in the very suffering we wish to escape. Suffering is not a punishment. It is not a force trying to tear us apart. It is a mirror reflecting back to us our deepest fears, insecurities, and wounds. We carry these wounds with us, often without even realizing it. They shape the way we see ourselves in the world. They influence how we react to situations, how we judge ourselves, how we criticize and shame ourselves for not measuring up. But here is the truth, these wounds are not you. They are not who you are at your core. To face suffering is to confront the false image of who you think you are. It is to face the lie that tells you that you need to be fixed, that you need to be something more than you are. When you look into the mirror of suffering, you are not looking at your true self, but at the image you have created of yourself, the one shaped by society, by others, by your own inner judgments. This image, this self-concept, is fragile. It is easily wounded because it is built on false beliefs and assumptions. Now, consider this. What if you could look beyond the image you've created? What if you could see yourself without the layers of self-doubt, fear, and shame that cover your true nature? What if, for once, you allowed yourself to simply be, without the need to prove anything, without the need to be anything other than what you already are? The first step in transcending suffering is to stop fighting it. Stop seeking to escape it. Instead, turn towards it. Observe it, feel it without judgment. See it for what it truly is, not a threat but an opportunity to discover your true self. Suffering is not something that is happening to you, it is something happening within you. And within that space you have the power to change. As you sit with the discomfort, the pain, you begin to realize something profound. It's not the suffering itself that controls you but your resistance to it. The more you resist, the more you give it power. But in allowing yourself to feel it fully, without judgment, something miraculous begins to unfold. You start to see the suffering as a teacher, not an enemy. It shows you the places within yourself that have been wounded, neglected, and ignored. And through this awareness you begin to heal. Healing does not happen in the absence of pain, but in the deep, radical acceptance of it. This is where most of us falter. We are so conditioned to avoid discomfort that we never learn the lessons pain has to offer. When we face suffering directly, without the impulse to escape, we are no longer at war with ourselves. We no longer define ourselves by the pain, by the hurt, or by the wounds of the past. we begin to see that suffering is not a permanent state. It is a wave, a passing moment, that holds within it the potential for growth and transformation. The great illusion we hold on to is that we are defined by our suffering. We carry the weight of past trauma, past failures, past hurts, and believe that they are who we are. We identify with the wounds, we let them define our self-worth. But in truth, the wounds are not us. They are simply experiences that have shaped us, yes, but they are not the essence of who we are. Think about the last time you felt deeply wounded. Perhaps someone criticized you, or you experienced a failure, or an old memory resurfaced. In that moment, what did you feel? Did you identify with the pain, letting it sink into your very being? Or did you observe it, step back, and see it for what it was? A temporary feeling, a passing emotion that did not have to define you? In the process of observing the suffering without trying to escape it, you begin to notice the space between the experience and your reaction. This is the space where true transformation happens. This is the space where you can choose to be free, to let go of the attachments to your past, to the false self-image that has been shaped by fear and pain. Krishnamurti often spoke about the importance of attention and awareness. To observe without the filter of judgment is to step outside the cycle of suffering. When you are truly present, truly aware, there is no space for the mind to attach to the pain. It simply is. You feel it, you experience it, and then you let it pass just as a storm passes through the sky. It may be intense for a time, but it will eventually move on. The power of this awareness is not just in the act of observing, it is in the freedom it brings. You begin to see that your identity is not tied to your pain. You are not your suffering. You are the witness, the observer, the one who can choose how to respond. And in this moment of choosing, you reclaim your power. No longer does the suffering dictate who you are or how you live. You are free from its grip. This freedom, however, is not the same as escape. True liberation does not come from running away from discomfort. It comes from facing it, feeling it fully, and realizing that it cannot harm you. In fact, it is through suffering that you come to know yourself in a deeper, more intimate way. The parts of you that were hidden, suppressed, and neglected come into the light. The wounds that once defined you begin to heal, not by trying to fix them, but by accepting them, by loving them as part of your human experience. The path to freedom is not an easy one. It requires courage to face what we would rather avoid, to look at ourselves honestly, without the masks and defenses that we use to protect our fragile self-image. But it is only through this courageous act of self-facing that we can truly heal. And healing, in this sense, is not about becoming something different, but about returning to the truth of who we have always been, whole, complete, and unbroken. So, as you stand on the precipice of your own suffering, know this: you are not broken. You are not defined by your pain, your fears, or your wounds. You are more than that. You are the stillness beneath the storm, the awareness that watches the waves crash and recede. And in that stillness there is liberation. In the midst of suffering, there is an inherent invitation to understand, to delve deeper into the very nature of your being. You see, it's not the pain itself that is the problem, but the narrative you attach to it. Every time you experience pain, your mind jumps to conclusions, creating stories about why this is happening, who is at fault, and what it means about you. These stories entrench you deeper into the cycle of suffering because you are no longer observing the pain as it is, you are interpreting it, reacting to it, and allowing it to dictate your state of being. But in reality, pain is not the enemy. It is simply an experience, raw, unfiltered, and in the moment. The suffering arises when you try to push it away, when you give it meaning, when you allow the mind to attach labels, identities, and judgments to it. Pain becomes suffering when you believe that it is something you must escape from, something that must be fixed, something that is inherently wrong. In the act of escaping, you only create more distance between you and yourself. Krishnamurti's teachings on attention provide a profound insight into how we can transcend suffering. He spoke of the need for a mind that is free from the habitual reactions of the past. When you are aware, truly aware, of the present moment, the mind becomes still. The incessant chatter, the judgments, the beliefs, all fall away. And in this stillness, you begin to perceive the suffering not as something to be avoided, but as an opportunity for insight, for growth, for freedom. The moment you stop labeling suffering as bad, as something to be feared or avoided, it loses its power over you. Instead of identifying with the pain, you become the observer, the one who watches it without judgment. You recognize that it is not permanent, that it does not define you, that it is but a fleeting moment in the grand tapestry of your life. This awareness creates space between you and the suffering. In that space you find your true self, untouched by the pain, free from the need for validation, free from the constant craving for approval or perfection. You realize that suffering is simply part of being human. It is not something you need to eliminate, but something you need to embrace, to face head-on without fear or resistance. For in that embrace, there is a profound release, a liberation that comes not from escape but from acceptance. When you accept suffering without resistance, you dissolve the very essence of it. You see that your attachment to it, your need to control it, is what keeps it alive. When you stop fighting it, it loses its hold over you. You stop clinging to the past, to the memories of hurt and rejection, and you step into the present moment with full awareness. This process of transformation is not an intellectual exercise. It is not something you can read about in a book or hear in a lecture and immediately understand. It is a deeply personal journey that requires you to go inward, to explore your own mind, to face your own fears, and to confront the patterns of thought that have shaped your perception of reality. It is only through this inward journey that you can begin to see the nature of your suffering for what it truly is, a construct of the mind. The mind's constant habit of analyzing, interpreting, and labeling is what perpetuates suffering. It tells you that you are not enough, that you must prove yourself, that you need something external to feel whole. But when you stop identifying with these thoughts, when you begin to observe them from a place of detachment, you realize that they are not you. They are merely passing thoughts, momentary fluctuations in the mind that have no true power unless you give them attention. This is the essence of Krishnamurti's teachings. To see the false as false, and in doing so to step into the truth. The false is the identity you have constructed, the image of yourself that is based on past experiences, societal expectations, and conditioned beliefs. The truth is the stillness beneath the surface, the awareness that sees beyond the mind's distractions, the core of your being that is eternal and unchanging. When you begin to live from this place of awareness, suffering no longer has the same grip on you. You no longer need to escape from it because you understand its impermanence, its fleeting nature. You realize that it is simply a part of the human experience and that by facing it, you transcend it. In the very act of seeing the false as false and truth as truth, there is liberation. And so, you stand at the threshold of your own transformation. You are no longer bound by the chains of the past, by the stories you've told yourself about who you are and what you are capable of. You are free not because you have eliminated suffering but because you have learned to see it for what it truly is. And in that seeing you have reclaimed your power, your peace, and your true self.